Have you ever noticed how some people seem to walk through life untouched by chaos, criticism, or the storms that rage around them? How they manage to hold their peace even when everyone else is losing theirs? That kind of strength isn't something you're born with. It's cultivated, it's trained. And today I want to talk to you about the power of training yourself to be unbothered. Because the truth is, life will try to shake you, provoke you, and push you into reactions that don't serve your peace. But when you learn to stand firm, when you learn to guard your mind and your heart, when you learn the discipline of remaining unbothered, you discover freedom like you've never known before. This isn't about shutting the world out. This isn't about ignoring responsibilities or pretending challenges don't exist. It's about mastering yourself in the midst of life's noise, learning to rise above the petty provocations, the unnecessary comparisons, the endless judgments, and discovering how to respond with wisdom, patience, and calm. And yes, it takes practice, it takes intentionality, it takes training. Today, we are going to explore practical ways to cultivate this strength in your daily life so that the storms of life no longer have the power to shake your peace. When we talk about training yourself to be unbothered, the first and most critical place to start is your mind. The battlefield of peace is fought first in your thoughts. Every day, you are bombarded with opinions, expectations, and pressures from family, friends, social media, work, and even from yourself. And if you allow every single thought that comes your way to take root, to grow, to control you, you will never experience the calm, unshakable peace that you were meant to walk in. Learning the power of your thoughts means recognizing that not everything that enters your mind deserves a response. Not every whisper of doubt, not every critical comment, not every fear needs to take residence in your life. Some of it must pass through and be released. Your thoughts are not just fleeting ideas, they are seeds. And seeds grow into actions, words, and habits. If you are constantly feeding seeds of worry, anger, or offense, your life will inevitably reflect that chaos. But when you train your mind intentionally, when you choose which thoughts to nurture and which to discard, you begin to reclaim control over your emotional state. This is not something that happens overnight. It is not a magic switch. It is a discipline. It requires consistent effort to pause before you react, to question the origin of your feelings, and to redirect your mind toward truth and perspective. Consider this. Every time someone speaks harshly to you or treats you unfairly, you are presented with a choice. You can allow their words to plant seeds of resentment and bitterness, or you can choose to view them through a lens that preserves your peace. Choosing the latter does not mean pretending the offense did not happen. It does not mean lowering your standards or condoning wrong behavior. It simply means that you are not giving power to something that was never meant to control you. You are recognizing that your mind is a sacred place and it deserves protection. Training your mind also means recognizing and replacing unhealthy thought patterns. Many of us operate on autopilot, replaying negative scripts that we have absorbed over time, scripts that tell us we are not enough, that we are too sensitive, that people are always out to get us. That life is inherently unfair. These thoughts become self-fulfilling prophecies, dictating how we feel, how we respond, and how we carry ourselves in every situation. But when you intentionally interrupt those patterns, challenge the lies, and replace them with truths, you begin to experience a shift. You begin to realize that peace is not found in avoiding life's challenges, but in learning how to navigate them with clarity and grace. The power of your thoughts also impacts how you interpret the world around you. Two people can experience the same situation and come away with completely different emotional responses. One person might feel attacked, offended, or unsettled, while the other maintains composure and calm. What makes the difference? The lens through which they perceive the events. And that lens is built and strengthened by what you consistently allow yourself to think. If you feed thoughts of trust, faith, patience, and understanding, you will begin to see the world through a perspective that does not provoke unnecessary anxiety or reaction. Part of training your thoughts involves intentional mindfulness. It's about being present and aware of what you are thinking, why you are thinking it, and what effect it is having on you. This can be as simple as taking a moment each morning to set your mind in the right direction, reminding yourself of your worth, your boundaries, and your purpose. It can also mean actively redirecting your mind when it begins to dwell on negativity or offense. Every time you choose to pause, reflect, and refocus, you are exercising the muscle of being unbothered. You are training your brain to recognize that not every external circumstance deserves your internal disturbance. Another key aspect is self-talk. The conversations you have with yourself, silently or aloud, are powerful forces that shape your emotional state. If your internal dialogue is harsh, critical, or doubting, it becomes almost impossible to remain unbothered. But when you speak words of encouragement, affirmation, and truth to yourself, you build an inner fortress that is resilient to attack. You become less dependent on others for validation because you have already established it within yourself. And with practice, these positive thoughts become automatic, creating a natural shield against the chaos that life will inevitably bring. Finally, remember that the power of your thoughts is not just about defense, it is also about creation. What you think shapes not only how you feel, but how you show up in the world. When your thoughts are trained toward peace, patience, and focus, your actions follow suit. You begin to move through life with a steadiness that others notice. You become someone who radiates calm in the middle of storms, someone whose presence itself diffuses tension rather than escalating it. And that is the essence of being unbothered, being untouchable, not because you are indifferent, but because you have mastered the internal world that truly dictates how you experience life. Your peace is one of the most valuable treasures you will ever possess, and yet so many of us treat it as if it were disposable. We give it away to people who don't respect it. We trade it for approval we don't need, and we allow circumstances to steal it as if it were something outside of our control. But the truth is, peace is not something that is given to you by others. It is something you protect, cultivate, and fight for every single day. When you truly understand that your peace is sacred, everything changes. You begin to recognize the subtle ways it is threatened, the moments when it is at risk, and the intentional steps you must take to preserve it. Guarding your peace is not selfish, it is essential. One of the first steps in guarding your peace is learning to identify what drains it. Toxic relationships, unnecessary drama, endless comparison, and negative environments are all silent thieves. They sneak in slowly, disguised as love, responsibility, or duty. And before you know it, your heart is weary, your mind is restless, and your soul feels heavy. It is not wrong to love people or care about situations, but it becomes destructive when you allow them to dictate your inner state. You must develop discernment, the ability to see clearly what deserves your energy and what does not. This discernment is not natural at first. It is a muscle you build by practicing awareness, reflection, and intentionality. Protecting your peace also requires setting boundaries. Boundaries are not walls of isolation. They are gates of protection. They are the clear and firm lines you draw that say, this is my space, my energy, my mind, and I will not allow it to be violated carelessly. Boundaries might look different for each person. Sometimes they mean limiting time with certain people. Sometimes they mean refusing to engage in certain conversations. Sometimes they mean saying no to opportunities that will compromise your mental or emotional well-being. Whatever form they take, boundaries are the practical demonstration that you value your peace and are unwilling to sacrifice it for temporary comfort, obligation, or fear of conflict. Guarding your peace is also about protecting your thoughts. The world will try to fill your mind with fear, doubt, worry, and negativity. Social media, news cycles, conversations, and even well-meaning friends can bombard you with messages that unsettle your spirit. If you let every voice in, you will lose the ability to hear your own. You have to be intentional about what you allow to take root in your mind. This means controlling your intake of information, being selective about your influences, and practicing the discipline of redirecting your thoughts to what is true, uplifting, and constructive. You cannot pour from an empty vessel, and a mind cluttered with chaos cannot support the calm, unbothered life you are called to live. Another critical aspect of guarding your peace is managing your responses. Life will always present situations designed to provoke you, frustrate you, or test your patience. If you react impulsively, if you let anger or offense dictate your actions, your peace is compromised. Learning to respond rather than react is a skill of the highest value. It means pausing, taking a breath, and asking yourself what is worth your energy in that moment. It means reminding yourself that not every battle is yours to fight. Not every opinion requires a response, and not every situation needs your validation. Each time you exercise this restraint, you are actively guarding your peace and reinforcing the inner strength that allows you to remain unbothered. Guarding your peace also involves knowing when to walk away. Some people, some conversations, and some circumstances are not meant to be endured. They are designed to test you, to distract you, and to pull you off course. It takes courage to step back, to remove yourself from toxic environments, and to disengage from those who consistently harm your emotional well-being. But it is necessary if you are serious about living a life that is unshakable. Walking away is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is a clear declaration that you value your inner calm above external chaos, and that you will not compromise the sanctuary of your spirit for temporary comfort or false loyalty. The way you guard your peace also extends to self-care and spiritual practices. Peace is not just the absence of conflict, it is the presence of alignment, clarity, and groundedness. Taking time to pray, meditate, reflect, or simply be still is not indulgent, it is protective, nourishing your body, mind, and soul with rest. Healthy routines and moments of solitude strengthens your ability to remain unbothered when life inevitably challenges you. Peace thrives in an environment of intentional care, and neglecting yourself in the name of productivity, obligation, or external approval leaves you vulnerable to agitation, stress, and emotional drain. Finally, guarding your peace requires a deep recognition of your worth and your purpose. When you understand that your life has meaning and that your spirit is valuable, you begin to treat it accordingly. You no longer tolerate unnecessary chaos, disrespect, or manipulation. You begin to cultivate environments, relationships, and habits that nourish your soul and honor your journey. You become intentional about where you invest your time, energy, and emotions, because you recognize that your peace is not a luxury. It is a necessity for the life you are called to lead. One of the most powerful ways to remain unbothered is to learn the art of choosing your battles wisely. Life will constantly present you with situations that feel urgent, conflicts that feel personal, and provocations that feel unavoidable. If you respond to every single one, if you fight every fight that comes your way, you will quickly find yourself exhausted, frustrated, and drained. Your energy is finite, your focus is precious, and your peace is fragile if you allow yourself to be pulled into unnecessary battles. Choosing your battles wisely is about discernment, about wisdom, about understanding that not everything deserves your time, your reaction, or your emotional investment. It is about learning to weigh what is truly important against what is trivial, what is productive against what is destructive, and what is necessary against what is distracting. At the heart of choosing your battles wisely is the ability to evaluate the stakes. Not every offense, disagreement, or challenge carries weight in the bigger picture of your life. Some conflicts are temporary, inconsequential, or even designed to test your patience rather than threaten your future. By taking a step back and asking yourself whether this particular issue is worth your energy, you begin to reclaim control over your responses. You begin to conserve your strength for the moments that truly matter, the situations that align with your values, and the battles that have long-term significance. This evaluation is not a sign of weakness, it is a demonstration of maturity and self-respect. Another critical part of choosing your battles is understanding the difference between principle and preference. Some things are worth standing firm on because they reflect your core values, your integrity, and your identity. These are the battles where compromise would cost you more than you can afford. Other things are merely preferences, minor irritations, or personal likes and dislikes that do not impact your overall mission or purpose. Learning to let go of these lesser matters is not about giving up. It is about prioritizing your peace over proving a point or winning an argument. By distinguishing between principle and preference, you protect your mental and emotional energy and maintain clarity about what truly deserves your attention. Choosing your battles wisely also requires emotional intelligence. Often, we are drawn into conflicts not because they are important, but because they trigger our emotions. Offense, pride, fear, and insecurity can make insignificant matters feel urgent, and when we allow our emotions to dictate our actions, we hand over our power to the very things we wish to resist. Emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize these triggers, to pause, and to respond with intention rather than instinct. It is the practice of asking yourself why a particular issue feels pressing and whether responding will actually serve your long-term well-being or simply satisfy a temporary urge. Part of this wisdom comes from learning patience and timing. Not every battle must be fought immediately, and not every response must be instantaneous. Sometimes the most unbothered decision is to wait, to observe, and to allow situations to unfold before taking action. There is power in measured responses, in choosing the right moment to speak, act, or stand firm. By exercising patience, you avoid unnecessary conflict, prevent escalation, and demonstrate self-control. Waiting does not mean weakness, it means strength. It means you are aware of the consequences and are willing to act in a way that preserves your peace and advances your purpose. Choosing battles wisely also involves recognizing when a battle is beyond your control. There will always be situations, people, and circumstances that cannot be changed no matter how much energy you invest. Trying to control the uncontrollable only leads to frustration, bitterness, and exhaustion. Wisdom lies in discerning what is within your influence and what is not, and in focusing your efforts on the areas where your actions can create meaningful impact. By letting go of the uncontrollable, you protect your mental and emotional space and maintain a sense of calm even in the midst of chaos. Another element of this discipline is learning to respond strategically rather than impulsively. Not every confrontation needs to be direct. Not every slight requires a verbal reply. Sometimes the most powerful response is silence, restraint, or indirect action that preserves your dignity and keeps you above unnecessary conflict. Strategic response requires foresight, clarity of purpose, and the ability to prioritize long-term peace over short-term satisfaction. Each time you choose strategy over reaction, you reinforce your capacity to remain unbothered and to focus on what truly matters. Choosing your battles wisely also requires surrounding yourself with wise counsel. None of us operate in isolation, and having trusted mentors, friends, or advisors who can provide perspective can prevent you from engaging in conflicts that are unproductive or unnecessary. These voices help you see situations clearly, weigh the stakes accurately, and navigate challenges with discernment. When you learn to seek guidance and listen to wisdom, you avoid the trap of impulsive reactions and gain the clarity to decide which battles are worth fighting and which are better left alone. Ultimately, learning to choose your battles wisely is about reclaiming ownership of your life and your peace. It is about recognizing that your energy, your focus, and your emotional well-being are too precious to be squandered on matters that do not align with your purpose, your values, or your vision. It is about understanding that every time you engage in a conflict that is unnecessary, you weaken your position to handle the ones that truly matter. By becoming intentional, disciplined, and strategic in the conflicts you choose to engage in, you cultivate a life of calm, strength, and unshakable peace. One of the most transformative habits you can cultivate on the journey to being unbothered is learning to respond rather than react. There is a subtle but powerful difference between the two, and understanding this distinction is essential if you want to preserve your peace, maintain control over your emotions, and navigate life with wisdom. Reacting is impulsive, it is immediate, fueled by emotion, and often leaves you regretting words spoken or actions taken. Responding, on the other hand, is intentional, it is measured, deliberate, and rooted in clarity and self-control. When you respond instead of react, you reclaim your power, you protect your peace, and you operate from a place of strength rather than vulnerability, to respond rather than react, you must first develop awareness of your triggers. There are certain words, actions, or circumstances that provoke you more than others, and these triggers are often connected to past experiences, unresolved wounds, or unmet expectations. By identifying your triggers, you gain insight into why you are inclined to react impulsively. Awareness is the first step toward transformation because you cannot change what you do not acknowledge. It is only when you recognize the patterns in your responses that you can begin to choose a different path, one that allows you to act with intention rather than emotion. Another critical aspect of responding is learning to pause. The pause is a moment of power. It is the space between stimulus and action where you can assess the situation, reflect on your priorities, and choose the course that aligns with your values and your long-term well-being. This pause may last seconds, minutes, or even longer depending on the complexity of the situation, but the principle remains the same. Do not allow immediate emotion to dictate your actions. Every time you pause, you practice discipline, strengthen your self-control, and reinforce your capacity to remain unbothered in circumstances that would otherwise disturb your peace. Responding also requires perspective. Often, our first reaction is shaped by our limited view of a situation, fueled by assumptions, misinterpretations, or incomplete information. By taking the time to seek understanding, to consider alternative viewpoints, and to evaluate the full context, you equip yourself to respond in a way that is measured, constructive, and effective. Perspective allows you to see that not every offense is personal, that not every criticism is true, and that not every challenge requires an immediate fight. When you respond from perspective, you rise above impulsive reactions and create space for solutions, reconciliation, and growth rather than conflict. Emotional regulation is a cornerstone of responding instead of reacting. Your emotions are powerful indicators of your inner state, but they are not always reliable guides for action. When anger, frustration, fear, or hurt arises, it is easy to act on impulse and say or do things that escalate the situation. Emotional regulation is the practice of acknowledging your feelings without allowing them to dictate your behavior. It is the discipline of recognizing the intensity of your emotions, grounding yourself, and choosing a response that honors both your values and your peace. Each time you regulate your emotions and respond thoughtfully, you strengthen your resilience and your capacity to remain unshaken by external pressures. Communication is another vital component of responding. The words you choose, the tone you adopt, and the timing of your message all contribute to whether your response is productive or destructive. Responding intentionally often requires speaking with clarity, calmness, and purpose rather than blurting out immediate reactions. It may involve asking questions, seeking clarification, or expressing yourself assertively without aggression. By prioritizing thoughtful communication over impulsive expression, you prevent unnecessary conflict, maintain your dignity, and foster environments where resolution and understanding are possible rather than hostility and misunderstanding. Responding also requires humility and the willingness to release the need to be right in every situation. So often we react because we feel attacked, offended, or misunderstood, and we believe that defending ourselves is the only way to maintain our identity or credibility. But responding wisely means recognizing that winning an argument or proving a point is not always necessary or beneficial. Sometimes the most powerful response is grace silence or letting go of the need for validation. By choosing this path, you protect your peace and demonstrate strength that comes from inner mastery rather than external approval. Another element of responding intentionally is the ability to learn from each situation. Every challenge, confrontation, or provocation contains lessons if we are willing to reflect and extract them. When you respond rather than react, you create the space for insight, growth, and discernment. You begin to see patterns, recognize recurring dynamics, and develop strategies for handling similar situations more effectively in the future. This reflective approach turns potential frustration into opportunity, transforming moments that could have drained you into sources of empowerment and wisdom. Finally, responding rather than reacting is a practice that compounds over time. It is not something you master in a single encounter. It is a lifestyle, a discipline that grows stronger each time you choose clarity over chaos, intention over impulse, and peace over provocation. With consistent practice, responding becomes natural, automatic, and even instinctive, allowing you to navigate life's storms with calm confidence. It is through this practice that you cultivate the unbothered life you desire, one in which external circumstances no longer dictate your inner state, and your peace remains intact regardless of the noise around you. One of the greatest threats to remaining unbothered is the constant noise of comparison. In a world full of social media highlights, public achievements, and carefully curated images, it's almost impossible not to measure yourself against others. We see someone's success, their possessions, their recognition, their relationships, and we immediately begin to question our worth, our timing, and our path. Comparison has a way of creeping in quietly, subtly planting seeds of envy, insecurity, and dissatisfaction. It distracts you from your purpose, robs you of joy, and convinces you that you are behind, missing out, or somehow less than. Learning to silence this noise is essential if you want to train yourself to be unbothered. The first step in silencing comparison is to recognize it for what it is, a lie disguised as truth. Just because someone appears to have it all together does not mean their life is perfect or without struggle. Social media and public perception only show the curated moments, the victories, and the highlights. Behind the scenes, everyone faces challenges, setbacks, and struggles that are unseen. When you internalize this truth, you begin to free yourself from the illusion that someone else's journey diminishes your own. Your path is unique, your timing is divine, and your worth is inherent, not dependent on how you measure up to someone else. Silencing comparison also requires cultivating gratitude. Gratitude shifts your focus from what you lack to what you already have, from what others possess to the blessings in your own life. It trains your mind to celebrate your journey rather than envy someone else's. Each morning, each day, each moment is an opportunity to recognize what you have accomplished, what you have learned, and the progress you have made. Even if it is not yet visible to the world, gratitude reminds you that your story is valid, your effort is meaningful, and your path is purposeful. It anchors you in the present and fortifies your mind against the pull of comparison. Another key aspect of silencing comparison is redefining success on your own terms. Too often we adopt the definitions of success that society, peers, or social media feeds present to us, and we measure our lives against these external standards. But true unbothered living comes from internal clarity. It comes from understanding what matters most to you, what aligns with your values, and what fulfills your purpose. When you define success by your own standards, you are no longer subject to the shifting opinions, achievements, and expectations of others. You create a framework in which your peace is non-negotiable, and your focus is on growth, contribution, and fulfillment rather than approval or comparison. Silencing comparison also involves controlling your exposure. You cannot always stop the world from presenting opportunities to compare yourself to others, but you can limit unnecessary triggers. This might mean curating your social media feed, limiting time spent scrolling, or avoiding environments that consistently make you feel inadequate. It also means surrounding yourself with people who inspire, uplift, and encourage rather than compete, criticize, or belittle. Your environment has a powerful effect on your mindset, and intentionally shaping it allows you to protect your peace and reinforce a positive, unbothered outlook. Another critical piece of this practice is embracing your individuality. Your journey, your gifts, your timing, and your experiences are unique. Comparison only arises when you forget that your value is not relative to anyone else. Each person has a distinct calling, and your focus should be on cultivating your gifts, walking your path, and fulfilling your purpose. When you celebrate your uniqueness, when you honor your strengths, weaknesses, and experiences, you build a fortress of self-assurance that no external comparison can penetrate. You learn to appreciate your story, even if it looks different from everyone else's. Silencing comparison also requires self-compassion. Often, we compare ourselves harshly to others and judge our perceived shortcomings. We measure ourselves by someone else's successes and feel inadequate or behind. Self-compassion interrupts this cycle. It reminds you that you are human, that growth takes time, and that setbacks are part of the process. By speaking to yourself with kindness, encouragement, and understanding, you protect your emotional state and maintain clarity and confidence. You stop being your own harshest critic and instead become a champion of your progress and potential. A practical way to reinforce this mindset is to celebrate the success of others without letting it diminish your sense of self. When you cheer for someone else, when you genuinely acknowledge their victories without resentment or envy, you train your heart to see abundance rather than scarcity. This perspective reminds you that their achievements do not take away from your own potential, that life is not a zero-sum game, and that there is room for everyone to flourish. The more you celebrate others without comparison, the more you cultivate inner peace and resilience against the pull of envy. Finally, silencing comparison is an ongoing practice, a discipline that requires vigilance, intention, and self-awareness. You will not wake up one day immune to it because the world is designed to provoke insecurity, doubt, and measurement against others. But each time you recognize a thought of comparison, each time you redirect your focus to gratitude, purpose, and self-worth, you strengthen your ability to remain unbothered. Over time, this practice transforms your mindset, your perspective, and your experience of life, allowing you to walk confidently in your own journey without distraction, without envy, and without the unnecessary weight of comparison. Building emotional resilience is one of the most critical practices for anyone who wants to remain unbothered in life. Resilience is not the absence of pain, disappointment, or struggle. It is the ability to withstand those challenges without being consumed by them, the capacity to recover, adapt, and grow stronger through difficulty. Life will inevitably test you with trials, criticism, rejection, and unexpected hardships. Your peace, your focus, and your purpose will all be challenged, but when you commit to building emotional resilience daily, you are creating an internal foundation that allows you to remain steady, confident, and unshakable even in the midst of life's storms. The first step in cultivating resilience is self-awareness. You must understand your emotional landscape, how you react under stress, what triggers your insecurities, and where your vulnerabilities lie. Self-awareness is not always comfortable because it requires honest reflection and the willingness to confront areas of weakness. However, it is the cornerstone of emotional strength because you cannot manage what you do not recognize. By taking stock of your emotions regularly, you begin to see patterns, anticipate challenges, and prepare yourself to respond rather than be controlled by circumstances. Another key practice is developing emotional regulation. Resilience is built when you learn to manage your feelings instead of letting them manage you. Anger, fear, sadness, or anxiety will arise, but resilience is the discipline of acknowledging these emotions without letting them dictate your actions or consume your mind. Techniques such as deep breathing, journaling, prayer, meditation, or simply pausing before responding allow you to process emotions healthily. Each time you regulate your emotions, you reinforce the neural pathways that allow you to respond thoughtfully and maintain peace instead of reacting impulsively. Building resilience also involves reframing challenges as opportunities for growth. Life will present obstacles, but how you interpret them determines their impact on you. Instead of seeing setbacks as failures or personal attacks, resilient individuals view them as lessons, opportunities to strengthen character, and moments to refine their approach. This mindset shifts your perspective from victimhood to empowerment, reminding you that every challenge contains a seed of potential and that your ability to navigate difficulty is itself a measure of growth. Daily resilience is strengthened through consistency and self-care. Your emotional strength is directly tied to your physical, mental, and spiritual well-being. Neglecting your health, rest, or spiritual nourishment leaves you vulnerable to emotional overwhelm. By prioritizing sleep, exercise, nutrition, and practices that center your spirit, you create a stable foundation from which you can face adversity without being shaken. Resilience is not just mental, it is holistic, encompassing every part of your being that contributes to your capacity to endure and thrive. Support systems also play a vital role in building resilience. Resilience is not about isolation or pretending you can handle everything on your own. It is about surrounding yourself with people who uplift, encourage, and challenge you to grow. Trusted friends, mentors, and spiritual guides provide perspective, reassurance, and accountability when life feels heavy. They remind you of your strengths when you forget them, and they help you navigate challenges with clarity. Building resilience means knowing when to lean on others while maintaining responsibility for your own emotional state. Practicing gratitude daily further strengthens emotional resilience. Gratitude shifts your focus from what is lacking or painful to what is abundant and good in your life. When you intentionally acknowledge the blessings, achievements, relationships, and lessons in your life, you reinforce a mindset of positivity, hope, and perspective. Gratitude does not eliminate hardship, but it gives you the mental and emotional capacity to face challenges with clarity and composure. It reminds you that even in the midst of difficulty, there are things to celebrate and reasons to persevere. Another critical element is developing problem-solving skills. Resilience is strengthened when you approach challenges with a proactive, solution-oriented mindset. Instead of being paralyzed by difficulties or reacting impulsively, you analyze situations, consider your options, and take intentional steps to address problems constructively. This builds confidence, reduces anxiety, and reinforces the belief that you are capable of navigating life's complexities without being consumed by them. Each successful navigation of adversity reinforces the muscle of resilience, preparing you for future challenges. Finally, building emotional resilience is a daily practice, not a one-time achievement. It requires intentionality, repetition, and a commitment to personal growth. Each day presents opportunities to strengthen this resilience through reflection, self-care, intentional responses, gratitude, and proactive problem solving. The more you practice, the more automatic resilience becomes, allowing you to maintain calm, clarity, and focus regardless of external pressures or provocations. Over time, you develop the inner strength to remain unbothered, to navigate life with confidence, and to rise above circumstances that would once have derailed your peace. One of the most essential practices for training yourself to be unbothered is learning to establish boundaries without guilt. Boundaries are not walls meant to isolate you from the world. They are protective measures that preserve your peace, your energy, and your sense of self. Many of us grow up believing that saying no, prioritizing ourselves, or refusing certain demands is selfish, wrong, or unloving. But the truth is, boundaries are acts of love, love for yourself, love for your mental and emotional health, and even love for others, because they allow you to show up fully and authentically without resentment or depletion. Establishing boundaries is not negotiable if you want to maintain an unshakable sense of calm and control in a world that constantly tries to overextend you. The first step in creating healthy boundaries is identifying what you need to protect: your time, your energy, your emotional space, your values, and your priorities all deserve clear limits. Take stock of areas in your life where you feel drained, overextended, or resentful. These are usually signals that boundaries are missing or have been ignored. By recognizing where your limits have been crossed, you gain clarity about what you need to guard going forward. Boundaries are a form of self-awareness. They are your way of saying, I know what I need, and I will not compromise it unnecessarily. Next, you must understand that setting boundaries is an act of empowerment, not selfishness. Saying no, limiting contact, or declining invitations does not make you a bad person. It makes you a person who values their peace. When you establish boundaries, you are sending a message that your mental, emotional, and spiritual health are priorities. This is not arrogance. This is wisdom. You cannot pour into others or fulfill your purpose if your own energy has been depleted by overcommitment, people pleasing, or obligations that do not align with your path. Boundaries are a declaration that your well-being matters and that your life is not meant to be dictated by everyone else's demands. Another critical component of boundary setting is clarity and directness. Ambiguity often leads to resentment, misunderstanding, and violation of your limits. When you communicate your boundaries clearly, calmly, and respectfully, you remove the guesswork for others and reduce the likelihood of conflict. Clear boundaries create a framework for how you expect to be treated and how you will engage with situations and relationships. It is not about controlling others. It is about establishing mutual respect and creating conditions in which you can operate from a place of calm, focus, and self-respect. Establishing boundaries also requires practice and consistency. Many of us attempt boundaries once or twice, feel guilty, and allow ourselves to revert to old patterns. But boundaries are only effective when they are upheld consistently. Each time you enforce a limit, whether it is turning down extra work, stepping back from a draining relationship, or refusing to engage in unnecessary conflict, you strengthen your inner resolve and reinforce the standard you have set for your life. Consistency communicates to yourself and to others that your peace is non-negotiable and that you are committed to protecting it. Dealing with guilt is another vital aspect of establishing boundaries. It is common to feel guilty when you say no or prioritize yourself, especially if you have spent years putting others' needs ahead of your own. But guilt is a sign that you are breaking old patterns and stepping into a healthier way of living. It is important to recognize that boundaries are not a betrayal of love, duty, or faith. They are a demonstration of responsibility to yourself and to the quality of your engagement with others. The more you practice boundaries without guilt, the more natural it becomes to honor your limits without apology. Boundaries also serve as a guide for others to respect your emotional and mental space. They teach people how to interact with you, how to communicate with you, and what is acceptable behavior around you. Without boundaries, people unconsciously overstep, take advantage of your generosity, or drain your energy. With clear boundaries, you create relationships that are healthier, more balanced, and mutually respectful. You attract people who honor your limits and your space, and you repel situations that would threaten your peace and focus. Spiritual alignment plays a crucial role in setting boundaries without guilt. When your decisions about limits are rooted in clarity about your purpose, values, and calling, you are less susceptible to external pressure or manipulation. Boundaries are not arbitrary. They are guided by your understanding of what is right for your life and what enables you to walk in your God-given potential. When grounded spiritually, boundary setting becomes less about avoiding conflict or criticism and more about faithfully stewarding your life, your energy, and your calling. Finally, establishing boundaries without guilt is a daily practice, a continual refinement of self-awareness, communication, and conviction. Each day presents new opportunities to test, reinforce, and expand your limits. The stronger your boundaries, the more unshakable your peace becomes. The more unshakable your peace, the freer you are to pursue your purpose, embrace your calling, and navigate life with calm confidence and clarity. One of the final keys to training yourself to be unbothered is learning to trust the process and stay consistent. Life rarely delivers immediate results, instant clarity, or overnight transformation. Growth, maturity, peace, and freedom are cultivated over time through daily choices, repeated practices, and intentional effort. Trusting the process means believing that even when progress seems slow, when circumstances feel frustrating, or when the world around you seems chaotic, there is a plan, a purpose, and a path unfolding for your life. It is the confidence that every small step, every intentional habit, and every deliberate act of self-discipline is contributing to your ultimate growth and stability. Consistency is the companion of trust. You cannot rely solely on bursts of motivation, emotional highs, or occasional effort to build unshakable peace. Consistency is what transforms habits into character and effort into lasting change. Each day, you have the opportunity to practice patience, reinforce boundaries, manage your thoughts, cultivate gratitude, and respond rather than react. These small daily choices, repeated over time, compound into resilience, stability, and an unbothered spirit. Trusting the process means continuing to show up even when the results are not immediately visible. Knowing that the work you do internally is laying the foundation for a life of strength and calm. One of the challenges in trusting the process is the human tendency to compare progress with others. You may see someone else moving faster, achieving more, or gaining recognition while you feel stuck or overlooked. This comparison is one of the greatest obstacles to staying consistent because it tempts you to abandon your unique path or rush ahead prematurely. Trusting the process requires surrendering the need for external validation and acknowledging that your journey is unique, your timing is divine, and your growth cannot be measured by anyone else's milestones. It is a commitment to honor your path, regardless of how it appears from the outside. Staying consistent also means embracing discipline. Trust without discipline is wishful thinking, and effort without consistency is wasted potential. Discipline is what keeps you moving when motivation fades, when distractions arise, or when challenges feel insurmountable. It is the decision to prioritize long-term peace, growth, and purpose over immediate comfort or convenience. Each disciplined choice, no matter how small, is a vote for the unbothered life you are cultivating. Over time, these choices build momentum, reinforcing your confidence in the process and deepening your trust in the outcome. Patience is another essential element in this journey. Growth does not happen overnight, and setbacks are inevitable. Trusting the process requires the ability to endure delays, obstacles, and frustrations without losing faith in yourself or the path you are on. Patience allows you to see that even periods of waiting, uncertainty, or challenge are part of the work of transformation. These moments are not wasted. They are opportunities to strengthen resilience, refine perspective, and deepen self-awareness. Staying consistent in the face of delays is a demonstration of faith in yourself and in the trajectory of your life. Accountability is a valuable tool in maintaining trust and consistency. Surrounding yourself with mentors, coaches, or supportive peers helps you stay on track, reminds you of your goals, and reinforces the habits that cultivate unbothered living. Accountability provides perspective when you are tempted to give up, encouragement when you feel weary, and reinforcement when your consistency wavers. It is a form of support that ensures your trust in the process is not just theoretical but reinforced through practical relational means. Tracking progress is another way to reinforce trust and consistency. While the results of growth may be slow or subtle, reflecting on past successes, lessons learned, and areas of improvement can provide motivation to keep moving forward. Keeping a journal, celebrating small victories, and acknowledging incremental change reminds you that your efforts are effective and that progress is occurring even when it feels invisible. These reflections strengthen your confidence in the process and reduce the temptation to abandon the work that builds lasting, unbothered strength. Finally, trusting the process and staying consistent requires faith in your own capacity to grow and evolve. It requires believing that the investment of time, energy, and intentionality in yourself will yield results in alignment with your purpose, your peace, and your calling. Every day you choose to pause, reflect, act with intention, and maintain your practices, you reinforce the pattern of growth. You cultivate patience in the waiting, perseverance in the struggle, and confidence in the journey. Over time, this trust in the process and commitment to consistency becomes the backbone of an unbothered life, allowing you to navigate challenges, distractions, and pressures with calm, focus, and unwavering peace.